Today, I want to discuss a common incident that may occur, especially for young professionals in the work and professional world, and that is showing up late to something, whether that is a job interview or a business meeting. Now, what I want to discuss is just the fundamentals of why it's bad, what to do about it, how to apologize correctly, and even some prevention. But I think it's an important topic because I think a lot of young people, um, they're just not as reliable when it comes to this, myself included. And it's something I'm working on. It's something others definitely need to work on because such a small thing can have a huge impact. Now, people respond very differently when they're late, both the receiver and the person who committed it. For me, if I commit it, I can get very guilty. I can feel like everyone's thinking in the back of their mind that I'm horrible for doing this. And, the receiver, depending on the context of the situation, can really judge you harshly or medium or not at all. It just depends on, their personality, their values, and the context of the event. If it's a serious, high profile job interview, that's probably much more of a harsh judgment than if it's a short, quick, casual meeting that is low priority and somewhat fun, but also somewhat business. So, honestly, this is one of those areas where the saying, a ounce of prevention is worth a ton of cure, is very viable. And I emphasize ton of cure. I know the original quote is a pound of cure, but to quote Charlie Munger, he believes it's not a pound of cure. An ounce of prevention is actually worth a ton of cure because it's just so much better in the long run. And so, really, the true solution is to not be late in the first place. And it's hard to do. It very much is. But I think what I've learned is that systems and processes are the solution to it. Because if you just rely on your willpower or your gut instinct, it's just going to keep happening. And I've experienced that, and it sucks. And I feel really bad about it. But when I look at it from a systematic view, you can always find the root cause. And for me, the root cause is if that event is not highlighted in red as meeting or whatever in my calendar, if it's not booked in the color red, it will just show up the same color as all the other events on my Google Calendar, which means that they just look like tasks and it just gets lost in the shuffle. Therefore, through this system that I'm using, I either need to change it up somehow so that the cause gets eliminated. In this case, I need to always make sure I highlight events in a different color in my Google Calendar, or I have to eliminate the other events that clog up my calendar that are really just to-do list tasks and find another outlet to get those checked off. Maybe that's a tool like Asana or just something simple like those free to-do list tools on your phone or on your browser. But that's a way of solving it. And I want to challenge you in the comments if you have another idea or solution for me to get your creative thinking going. Now, as far as um, being on time for meetings and seeing others be on time, I have realized that once I started to really take it seriously and I was always on time, well, not always, but I was more on time than usual, and I realized that other people suffer from this too. And it kind of lessened my load a bit because I realized, all these people that I was scared for judging me, oftentimes they would be late themselves or forget. And I would be pretty caring about that because I've been there too. And I wasn't judging them in a guilty way or a critical way for doing that. So, I should beat myself up less. Not, I'm never going to not beat myself up at all because it's really important. And some people really do care about that. But I'm going to beat myself up less about that. And so that's been something vital. Now, what about apologizing for being late? Like, how do you handle that situation? That's something I've deliberated about for a while. And there's this TikToker who's has millions of followers, and he talks about psychology and career advice and um, stuff around the brain. And one of his TikToks was very informative on this. He said the best way to apologize for something is, rather than draw out the problem, say, "Hey, I'm so sorry, I'm late," and so forth, like most people do. You want to lead with kind of a more positive viewpoint on it. And one way of doing that is by saying, "Thank you for your flexibility. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you for, waiting for me." That way, it's almost like you're giving a positive kind of gift. Thank you. I want to thank you for this. And then, you're acknowledging the issue, but also kind of, showing your appreciation that they're being accommodating for that. Now, of course, that doesn't solve everything. It's a band-aid solution, and maybe some people will still have a bad taste in their mouth for you being late. So still, the best cure is prevention in the first place. Don't be late. Um, and, depending on your personality and your willpower, you will have different methods. For me, since I'm very kind of exacting, I'm either super early and or like really early and on time always, or I'm very, very late. There's little in between. And that was a recent shift I made to make sure that I'm never late. And so that happens because I'm always, when I know about it and it's on my calendar, I always show up early. I make sure it doesn't happen to me. But then when, I miss it on my calendar, then I'm severely late. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or I miss the meeting completely. And so for me, I found that extremism points to that Google Calendar being the cause of my mistakes. For you, it may be something different. Maybe you don't use a calendar at all, and just having a calendar is what's going to do it. That was me before I used Google Calendar. I would miss meetings completely because I just operated off instinct. I would miss a lot of stuff because I didn't have a calendar on my phone and computer to help. So that might be your first step. And now I have another issue and systemic cause to address. But essentially, I think it's one of those things that can really improve your success. It may seem small, but I think if you master this, you will go far. And the reason is because, one, there's that saying, there's 10 things that don't require talent. And one of those is hard work. And then they go through the whole list, but in that list is showing up on time. And so, if someone's more talented than you, or skilled, or handsome, or sexy, or rich, or well connected, or hardworking, please, there's so many avenues where you can actually still increase your levels of success. So do that. Otherwise, you're going to fall behind. And one of those is simply showing up on time. So simple, but I think people don't even realize how these small things can add up. So they just keep showing up late. And so that's something I'm working on. I hope you work on too. And then one last thing, another example. I was reading this article a few years back about Jimmy Kimmel. And of course, he's one of the top talk show hosts of this generation, or maybe the previous generation coming into this generation. And this article talked about how he always showed up early to any type of meeting. Sometimes he would show up half an hour or an hour early. And the whole article, talked about his success, and there's a profile of Jimmy Kimmel. But one of his things was always showing up very super early to any type of meeting. And so that just goes to show you that, like, even Jimmy Kimmel really cares about something like this. And this article was in a magazine. I can't remember which magazine, but then it went into talk about this little fun competition that Jimmy Kimmel had with this big-time CEO of this big company. I think the company was Disney, but it could have been Universal or some other Hollywood production. And the battle was always to see who would show up earlier to a meeting, because the other guy, the CEO, would always show up like 2 hours earlier to their meetings. And so Jimmy Kimmel was always like, okay, now I'm going to show up 2 hours and 15 minutes early. And it was this like little game they played. Uh, and you don't have to go that far, but it just goes to show you that top performing people do care about this. So thanks for watching, subscribe, hopefully this helped, and please give me your tips because I'm working on this myself.